From where I'm looking, I don't think West Ham have any interest whatsoever in selling Mohamed Cudas to Tottenham Hotspur. However, he seems to be doing Daniel Levy a solid, as it's been reported that he's not interested in talking to any other club at the moment, which is annoying the West Ham boardroom as they want a cash-only bid to come in from Chelsea. Meanwhile, reports that our captain wants to have one more crack at the Champions League and all of the rest of the football tabloid tittle-tattle in today's episode of Daily Tottenham Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you are. If you're on YouTube, please do give this video a like. Please do subscribe to the channel. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you because I found out yesterday the results of the Spurs Kings TV Tottenham YouTube Content Awards. I won the Breakout Content Creator of the Year. Came second in the Underrated Channel Award, second in the Funniest Creator Award, believe it or not, third in the Best Transfer Update, and also I'm really pleased that We Are Tottenham TV won the Best Watch-Alongs Award, and Chris Cowling came second because obviously I was doing the watch-alongs for We Are Tottenham TV earlier last season and then started doing them for Chris Cowling after that. So listen, thanks so much for all of you guys who voted. Really appreciate it. And one more time, now I'm begging, some might say, for nominations for the Football Content Awards, which are really important, exciting awards. And there is a link in the description box below. And if you click on that link and want to give me some support, please go down to that and give me a nomination in a couple of those categories. But all right, let's get started. Feels like it's been another long weekend. As a Spurs fan, no more transfer incomings, but lots of almost endless stories about this Mohamed Cudas chase. And I'll be honest, it doesn't, well, it's not going to help any of the Daniel Levy haters the way that this is happening. I mean, I think basically it's seen, apart from maybe, Man City and Liverpool, you're really seeing how difficult the transfer market is these days for clubs because nobody is going in there and just, well, I also obviously have to mention Chelsea because they are hoovering up whoever they want to hoover up to some degree. But every other club is kind of busily trying to get the right deal for them whilst the club of the player they're trying to sign is trying to get replacements. And I think to some degree, that's probably what's happening with Cudas at West Ham. There's also, of course, and I'll go into this later in the episode, there is the reality that West Ham do not want to sell to Spurs. And I think from everything I hear, West Ham are putting a higher value on Cudas for Tottenham than they are for potential other buying clubs. And that is obviously going to frustrate Daniel Levy more. But yeah, Daniel Levy refusing to basically make it easy for anybody in this situation. But quelle surprise. So the latest from Graham Bailey, Spurs have had a third bid worth more than £60 million rejected by West Ham. It's believed to be £50 million on the table, plus £12.5 million in add-ons. And apparently that has not been taken seriously by the West Ham boardroom. David Sullivan and Karen Brady will be pulling the strings there. According to Bailey's report, the majority of the add-ons offered were barely attainable and included Tottenham winning the Champions League and the Premier League, which if you're West Ham and you kind of hate Spurs anyway, and frankly anyone on social media will probably want to meme that up, you would see that as a very unlikely prospect in a 5-year or 6-year deal for a player. Some quotes came out that said West Ham are frustrated with Tottenham about, this is not directly for West Ham, by the way, sorry. West Ham are frustrated with Tottenham about their valuation of Mohamed Cudas, and it's not being taken seriously. West Ham have hoped that Chelsea will also come to the table for Cudas with a cash offer. West Ham want Tottenham to become more realistic over the payment terms on their recent offers for Cudas, with the two clubs yet to agree a fee on a potential deal. Their latest proposal included payment triggers totaling in the region of over £10 million, as I mentioned, to be met if Tottenham win the Premier League or Champions League, and that is seen as unrealistic. However, here's the good news, and it comes from the Don himself, Fabrizio Romano. Mohamed Cudas is not talking to any other club at this stage. He wants to move to Tottenham. Cudas has already said yes to the Spurs project, and club-to-club talks with West Ham will continue soon. So that is the good news. Fabrizio Romano knows his onions, and Cudas has shown to Daniel Levy and to Spurs that that's where he wants to go. And that does put Daniel Levy in a better bargaining position, certainly than he was previously, but also then he is, I guess, in most transfer dealings. However, that is not to suggest, in my opinion, that Mohamed Kudus' mind couldn't be changed if, let's say, a Chelsea came in. But Chelsea, I think, do have to make some sales. If you saw on, I think it was Thursday or Friday, the UEFA FFP rulings came out and Chelsea got a big fine because they didn't comply with the equivalent of the PSR in European competitions. Aston Villa also got a fine. And Chelsea, I think, from everything I've heard, need to sell £60 million worth of players to even be allowed to play in European football or not get another fine. So they're going to have to get some outgoings. They're looking to sell Madueke, aren't they? And Arsenal are going for him. Obviously, Chelsea and Arsenal love kind of helping each other and giving money to each other. And they've already sold Kepa to Arsenal, of course. So also David Ornstein has come through and said that Cudas wants to come to Spurs as well. He says the 24-year-old Ghanaian international is prioritizing a Spurs move if he exits West Ham, and personal terms are no issue. Sammy Merbell on the Last Word on Spurs. If you don't listen to the Last Word on Spurs with Ricky Sachs, make sure you give them a follow and a subscriber on their podcast platform. Sammy Merbell said this, he was asked about whether there's a Tottenham tax, by which, as I mentioned earlier, West Ham are looking for more money from Spurs than they would for any other club to buy Mohamed Kudus. He said, Merbell says, like a Tottenham tax, do you mean? I'm not going to lie, I've heard sentiment to that effect. Unverified, but I've heard indications that there may be a Tottenham tax. I mean, to be honest, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Whenever you're playing Football Manager or any management game, if you don't want to sell to someone you deem to be your direct rival or a club that your fans hate, so you charge more. And West Ham, I think, although I get the real sense from their fans that they just want it done and dusted so they can get some more players in. A lot of West Ham fans very disappointed with how Cudas played last season, even though they loved him the first season there. They also won't want that one of their best players to be sold to Spurs. So let's see what happens. But good news for Tottenham is that Cudas clearly does want to come there. But, Levy needs to get it done because we haven't really had any incomings and pre-season training has started. I'm sure you saw on Saturday, the first social media videos came out from pre-season of the players arriving and then doing some of their medical tests. Anyway, let's stay with the transfers. And Son Heung-min has decided, according to some reports over the weekend, that he'd like to stay at Tottenham. He will meet this coming week with Thomas Frank to finalize his plans. And it is believed that his one last goal at Spurs is Champions League success. This is despite the fact that he has held talks apparently with Los Angeles Football Club in the MLS, but Sonny has decided, upon discussions no doubt with his disciplinarian father, that staying at Spurs is his best and favoured option. How do you guys feel about that? I don't think LAFC will have come in with a big bid for Sonny, realistically. I don't think they'd have paid 35 million pounds. So if Tottenham weren't able to get something like that from a club abroad, or more even from a Saudi Arabian club, then I think it's right for Spurs to keep Sonny another season as well. If Thomas Frank can really manage his minutes and rotate him for the important games, then I think he can probably get the best out of him. However, it'll be interesting, won't it? Because Sonny doesn't know. Maybe Sonny will come back and Thomas Frank will say, you're a legend, you're an incredible player, but I think now might be the time to go because I'm looking for more out-and-out pace on the flanks. Then maybe that will change Sonny's mind. But be an interesting week as the internationals start to come back, drip feeding towards the end of this week, I think, to pre-season. Be interesting to see what happens with Sonny. Spurs have apparently had a £32 million bid rejected for Fulham striker Rodrigo Munis. It's believed the Brazilian would be open to a move to North London this summer, although Fulham are believed to be holding out for around £50 million. Now, Munis, good player, always scores against Tottenham, so you can absolutely see why Spurs would be interested in him. Interesting to me that last season, whenever I kind of watched Fulham, Munis wasn't always in the starting 11. So I wonder if last season, basically, Munis had wanted to get a move, having had a real breakout goal-scoring season the year before, and Fulham didn't let it happen, and as a result, he kind of threw his toys out of the pram. That'll be why Tottenham have put in a kind of low-ball bid of £32 million, but he is undoubtedly a composed, talented finisher. Give him a chance, and he tends to put it away. And what Tottenham are looking for, especially if Richarlison leaves this summer, is a backup who can play as a proper number 9, rotating minutes with Dominic Solanke. So that's why they're in for Rodrigo Munis. Sorry, why have I think I've been calling him Ricardo Munis. Just shows. That's why we've been in for Rodrigo Munis. And yeah, I think it's potentially a good move for Spurs as long as he has the right attitude and really wants to, be willing to rotate his minutes. Because realistically, it's very hard to see him being the out-and-out starting number 9 with Dominic Solanke there. So let's see what happens with that one. The latest on the Christian Romero situation is apparently he will not hand in a transfer request at Spurs, but does prefer what's known in this article anyway as a graceful exit from Tottenham, and does want to play for Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. Apparently, Romero will have a second meeting with Daniel Levy to discuss his future at the club, having already rejected Levy's initial offer to make him the highest paid player at Tottenham Hotspur. Atletico Madrid are still offering 55 million euros plus 10 million euros in bonuses. That's only euros though, and it's Spurs wanting to drive up that fee to 80 million euros, which I completely agree with. We're talking here about a man who has won 1 World Cup, 2 Copa Americas. He's won like the super World Cup thing. The Euros winner against the World Cup winner against the Copa America winner. And he's won a Europa League for Tottenham. So 80 million euros, which works out as I think about, 65 million pounds or just above. That is the minimum as far as I'm concerned for Christian Romero. And I think we're in a good position for Daniel Levy to say to him, look, if Atletico Madrid come up with the price that is your value in the market, which to me is 80 million euros, then we will allow you to go. We don't want you to leave. We want you to stay. And maybe even if Sonny leaves, we want you to be our captain. But you have to find out how badly Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid want you. Because if they're only willing to offer 55 million euros up front, that is not badly enough. Just some other Christian Romero news. He has been banned from driving for 6 months after he was caught speeding. Court documents show that Romero's driving troubles came from an incident on December the 11th last year on the A406 between Bounds Green and Finchley. Now, to be banned from driving for seemingly one incident, that will mean, and let me know any kind of legal buffs around, but that will mean, and I think Christian Romero will have been going incredibly fast. Does that surprise me with how Christian Romero conducts himself on the football pitch? No, it does not. I imagine him being a bit of a boy racer. So maybe it's good for Spurs for him to be banned from driving for a bit because, it sounds pretty dangerous. And we don't want anything bad happening. So that's the last Christian Romero news. Okay, Spurs have inquired about Genoa defender Koni Dwint. It's believed that he's available for 25 million euros. This is a name that has been on Tottenham's list for a while now, and of course is all about whether Tottenham are in fact going to lose Christian Romero to Atletico Madrid. If they do not lose Romero this summer, I cannot see Dwint coming in. I think we are just lining up our ducks in a row as to if we get the kind of 80 million euros that we're looking for Christian Romero, who are we going to bring in who is a ready-made replacement? I would argue that nobody is a ready-made replacement for Christian Romero. He's just too good. But Dwint is a player on Spurs' list, a Belgian international, as I mentioned. And it is obviously good news, I think, that Tottenham are readying themselves for a potential exit of one of our most valued players in Romero. Okay, Thomas Frank is apparently looking to sell Yves Bassuma this summer in order to increase his transfer budget. Juventus and Lille are both interested in the Tottenham midfielder who has 1 year left on his contract to run. Yves Bassuma, I have to give props to him. He came through when probably I didn't expect him to in those knockout stages of the Europa League when we had so many injuries that he had to come in from the wilderness. But I think it's fair to say Thomas Frank will have looked at Bassuma from afar and done a lot of data mining and also watched a lot of his videos since he's become manager of Spurs and said to himself, is this a man we can trust to keep his concentration every single game? He's undoubtedly got talent, takes the ball on the half turn, really brave on it. Can find it in the half spaces, but he always loses his concentration. He always does something a bit silly, and Thomas Frank will want people who are working at 110% in every single game. And for me, that is not Yves Bassuma. And if we can get, 25-30 million pounds for him, then that's money that Frank could reinvest into the squad. So that is something I could imagine happening. Meanwhile, Vasco da Gama in Brazil are ready to make an offer for Richarlison, which includes covering his entire salary. So this will be a loan offer. Expectations are positive. Negotiations expected to progress in the coming days. And apparently the Vasco board are very optimistic about a potential deal. So that sounds like it would be a loan deal, them covering the salary and probably a loan fee with, I would imagine, an option for Richarlison to sign for Vasco after the season. For probably a cheaper price than he would cost this summer. However, Richarlison would prefer to stay and fight for his place, and Thomas Frank will apparently assess him during pre-season. For me, with Richarlison, it's all about, can he stay fit? His priority is to ensure he's the regular Brazilian number 9 ahead of next year's World Cup finals. And for that, he needs to play regularly at a high level. If he does become available, as well as Vasco, Galatasaray would be amongst a number of teams interested in him. That is according to Sky Sports News. That's, like I said, I think it'd be really interesting to see how Tottenham's training regime changes under Thomas Frank, because some of these players who have picked up regular muscle injuries and regular other injuries as well in the past 2 seasons under Ange Postecoglou may find themselves being fit a lot more often. And if Richarlison is fit and a good rotation option all season, and Thomas Frank likes him, I don't think we're going to find, as Spurs fans, realistically, many better players around who can do some of the things that Richarlison can do. Remember that goal he scored at Goodison, in off the left, put it into the top right-hand corner. He also plays, he plays okay as a backup number 9, but he plays okay off the left-hand side as well. So I think it'll be an important few weeks in pre-season for Thomas Frank to work out whether Richarlison is going to be able to stay fit and get enough minutes. But if not, then I think we can still maybe get 35-40 million pounds for Richarlison. There is a market for number 9s. And then we could reinvest that money as well. As I mentioned earlier, obviously the first videos from the pre-season came out on Saturday. Luka Vuskovic was there. Even though he did play international football for Croatia, he wanted to get into Spurs early. It's his first time properly in the building. Obviously, we signed him 2 years ago now, but because of his visa issues and his age, we couldn't get him in until now. So he was off on loan last season at Westerlo in Belgium. Very exciting to see how he does in pre-season. He's a real monster of a player. He's played so many league games for just an 18-year-old kid. And he loves scoring from attacking set pieces as well. And as a result, you'd imagine Thomas Frank would like him, because Thomas Frank, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And this doesn't sound very Spurs. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Tottenham started getting long throws involved. He loves getting the ball in the box, Thomas Frank. That is for sure. The Bundesliga is a likely destination for Vuskovic if Thomas Frank decides that another loan year is needed. Hamburg are apparently interested in him. All right, guys, that is the end of today's Tottenham transfer news. Thank you so much for watching. Let's hope, because it's a Monday, maybe there'll be a little bit of movement on that Mohamed Cudas move, and maybe even some surprise Johan Lange deals coming our way as well. It's 7th of July now. The club are back at pre-season. Thomas Frank is going to need some players in, but he will at least, starting this week, have some of those international players back as well. Be able to take a look at the talent at his disposal and therefore know exactly what he's looking for as well. All right, guys, please do give this video a like if you haven't already. Really appreciate that. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please do click that subscribe button for daily Tottenham Hotspur transfer news and all of the news from White Hart Lane. Come on, you Spurs.